Well, good morning. I'm sure a few more will probably join us, but welcome to this power session this morning. I'm Dave Beam with Beam Business Services, and I just love the subject that is at hand this morning. And the title of today's presentation is Time, Stress, Priorities, and let's talk a little bit about that. I guess I would be amiss if I didn't say thank you to the Portsmouth Chamber of Commerce, the Ashland Alliance, Ohio University Southern, and the Maysville Chamber of Commerce. They promote this event and sponsor it, and I appreciate the sponsors because they make this interesting and available to people. So let's talk about time, stress, and priorities. What I hear from folks about time is, I don't have enough of it. What I hear from folks about stress is, I have too much of it. And what I'm telling you this morning is there is one thing that will help you deal with both of those issues. And what that is priorities. So, the fact is, you have 24 hours a day just like everybody else. We have a limited amount of time, and if you are thinking in your mind that I need more time to fix my problem, you're going to be frustrated because you can't have any more time. And you knew that already. That's common sense, but I think sometimes we don't slow down and think about common sense things. Stress is a state of mind. A little bit of stress or a degree of stress is really healthy and good. The absolute absence of stress is called death. So we don't recommend that if you want to get anything done. And priorities is what it's all about. So I'm really anxious to jump into this. I want to start with a story from a little book that I wrote several years ago called Feeding the Ducks. If you'd like a copy of that book, it's on Amazon, or just drop me a note and I'll probably make sure I can figure out a way to get you one. It's just a little book of stories, about 30 stories with some questions to get you to think. And this one's about procrastination, because that is a common issue that I run into in the work that I've done over the last 18 years or so. And so let's talk about procrastination. This lady was named Susan. She had come to an event much like this, a live event, and she said, I'd like to meet with you. So we met at this nice little coffee shop in Ashland, and it was a fall day, and we pulled up and had our coffee, and I said, so Susan, how can I help you? And she said, well, I don't know if you can help me with my problem, but my problem is I'm a procrastinator. And I said, okay, well, tell me why or what you think is going on. She says, well, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but my mom was a terrible procrastinator. She put everything off. And her mom, my grandmother, she was pretty bad at this too. So maybe it's just genetic and I can't do anything about it. And I laughed and smiled and I said, well, Susan, I don't know about genetics, but I kind of suspect it's a little more than that or a little less than that. Let's just see where this goes. In fact, I've got even some better news for you today. I have the one cure for procrastination. She said, really? And I said, I've got this ink pen right here, and it's a magic wand, and I'm going to wave it over your head, and you're totally going to be free of your procrastination. And she didn't appreciate my little joke and my humor. She said, Dave, I don't think you're taking me seriously. I've got a serious problem here. I flip houses for a living. I go out and buy houses and I fix them up and have contractors and then resell them. And I have several deals in the works, and I've just gotten depressed and I don't want to do anything about it. And I'm laying on my couch, and the fact is, in a month, I'm going to lose my home because I just keep putting off the things that I need to do. And I'm kind of desperate, and I thought maybe you could really help me. So I'm not really interested in your magic wand. I really have a serious problem here and I need help. And I said, well, I didn't mean to make fun of you or try to be too light, But Susan, the fact is procrastination is just a state of mind. It isn't real. And of course, there was a pregnant pause in that, and she thought, and she said, well, go on. I don't know what you're saying, but help me understand. I said, there's only one cure to procrastination. And that is getting up and doing what you need to do. And I said, all the psychoanalysis and coaching and psychiatry in the world will not take care of the problem unless you choose to get up and do what needs to be done. And she had clarity on what she needed to do. She just wasn't doing it. And so we laughed and we had a great afternoon. We talked about some other things. I waved my pen over her head and I said, I really trust you're going to be fine. She called me 2 weeks later, actually emailed me 2 weeks later and said, I saved my home. I closed 3 deals and it was exactly, I just needed to get up and go do what I needed to do. Now, I wish all of the problems in time management and these issues were that easy to solve. They're a little more complicated than that, but it does beg a point that I want you to get this morning, that the primary issue you have with your time issues and your stress issues is between your ears. And if you'll step up and be responsible today, you can make some amazing progress this morning. So I want to start between your ears, and I want to talk about some common beliefs that really cause a hindrance to personal organization and productivity. Please be open-minded and just take this in and see what you think about it. Here's the first issue. I don't have enough time. If I ask most people what the problem is, they say the problem is, Dave, I just don't have enough time. The fact is that is a misnomer. You have, again, mentioned it earlier, 24 hours a day. When you tell yourself that, and you program yourself that way, you become a victim to a thought that you can't fix because you can't have any more time. You have all the time there is. Having enough time is not your problem here. Again, I understand why people say it, but it's not going to fix you it's not going to fix your issue if you think that way, because you can't change that situation. Second, I work better under pressure. Do you have that thought? Well, perhaps a bit of pressure is good. I know if you want to go on vacation, that last week before vacation, you get a lot done because that deadline is there. Some people like deadlines. They like the adrenaline that goes with deadlines. So there's probably some truth to that belief. But the fact is, the best, most productive state of mind is one where you're a bit relaxed and where you're a bit engaged and where you're truly having some fun and enjoyment and you're really kind of flowing with things. Probably a little less pressure than most of you are under. But when you tell yourself you need pressure to get things done, you put yourself under pressure and you create situations that create pressure, kind of do this all subconsciously. And I don't think that's going to maximize your personal organization and productivity. So let's just slow it down this morning and say, I'm going to put that belief on trial this morning. Maybe I need to work on reducing my stress and pressure, but that isn't necessary for me to get things done. Third, all I need is my to-do list and a calendar. Well, if that works for you, I'm not here to rain on your parade, but if you are a little bit disorganized and not getting as much done as you want and getting stressed out, I'm going to offer you a little more than a to-do list and a calendar. That's not really enough tooling in my world to make it really work well for most of the folks I deal with. Most of the folks I deal with have a lot of responsibility, and they need a little bit better system than just a to-do list and a calendar. Fourth, this one's an interesting one. There are those out there that believe that if you try to plan, schedule, and set an agenda to a meeting, that it takes away the fun, the spontaneity, and the creativity. That belief I will battle with you to the end, because the fact is, if you want to increase your fun, your spontaneity, and your creativity, it's likely you need a little bit more structure, planning, scheduling, and a good agenda that you are committed to. In fact, when you put some constriction on things and restriction on things, you create a space for you to be very creative, spontaneous, and have a good time. And when things are out of control and there's no order and there's chaos, that can be fun for a 2-year-old, but that's not really fun if we're trying to work in a productive and efficient environment where we're trying to get things done and we're trying to really move things forward. So I'm challenging that. I need to do more multitasking. Oh, I'm a great multitasker. The fact of the matter is, studies will tell you that when you multitask, you are about a third efficient. In other words, if you can focus on a single issue and stick with it, you will be three times faster in getting it done. Multitasking, the human mind and brain and psyche was not designed to move from one thing to the other very quickly. You are much more efficient when you can be focused on something. So interruptions are the problem, and we'll talk more about that later. I need to know how to manage my time is a belief that maybe brought you to this meeting today. Well, the fact is you can't manage time. Time moves on. Time is just a concept. Time is just a measurement of change, and you can't really manage time. What you must manage is priorities. And so let's talk about how to get that done. This is going to become very practical down the road. We're going to talk about some keys that will empower you. And I love to talk in distinctions because I believe when you see things that are true, when you see things accurately, when you see principles and laws in the world that work, they empower you. And I love distinctions. Left, right, up, down, north, south, life, death. And here's one, owner, victim. It's my favorite distinction in the work that I do. And it's a thinking distinction. It's a mindset distinction. Do you think like an owner or do you think like a victim? The answer is yes. You think like both. So do I. But the awareness of this distinction can really set you free. It's basically a distinction of responsibility. It's a distinction that says if there's a problem, if it's to be, it's up to me. That I'm going to use my ability to respond to the situation and do something about it. I'm not going to sit and blame somebody else. I'm not going to sit and make excuses, and I'm certainly not going to push it out of my mind and not think about it. I'm going to take ownership of it and no longer be a victim to it. That distinction, my friend, if you get that this morning, will be worth the price of admission today. Second, the distinction of influence and concern. It comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book, which I love. But if I want to grow my leadership or my influence, we're talking about time, right? We're talking about stress. We're talking about getting more done. Well, if you're in an organization, it's going to be when other people do things, not just you. And it's when they do it gladly, and when they do it responsibly, and when they do it joyfully, and when they do it in a way that it's working well and efficiently. And that happens when there's a good leader with somebody. So how do I grow that positive leadership and influence? Well, I need to understand, and I need to be very self-aware of where do I currently have influence, and where do I have just concern, but I don't have influence? In other words, there's a lot of things that we can think about that we can do nothing about. That is a waste of mental resource and energy. There are things that we can do a lot about that we're concerned about. That's where we need to spend our focus. When we focus on where we have influence, our influence or our leadership actually grows. When we focus our minds, our efforts, and our time, and our comments, and our statements on what we're concerned about versus where we have influence, but we're just worried about it, we actually diminish our influence. Why is that? Because when I'm dwelling on concerns that I can't change, I get frustrated. I get negative. I get critical. I get sarcastic. I get snippy because I'm frustrated. Frustration is what happens when I work on things and people and situations that I can't change, but I keep my attention there and my mind there. You need to come to that inner circle where you have influence and concern. And what's in the center of that circle is yourself. You can grow your effectiveness, your personal growth, if you will make that a focus. Many people are too busy to work on themselves. Many people put themselves last. I'm telling you to promote yourself and working on you so that you can be more effective and more helpful and more serving to others. Most people have this weird idea that I just don't need to pay any attention and take care of myself. That's just foolishness. If you don't breathe, you die. If you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you can't help other people get air. The fact is, everything as a leader rises or falls at your effectiveness and how you show up. So you showing up great is what will make the organization better. So I want you to really see that distinction. That's empowering. What do I focus on? What do I need to work on? You need to work on yourself first, and then with those people and those situations where you have the most influence. Third, the distinction between importance and urgency. This is where you just need to have a system that creates priorities so you can actually see the full picture of everything that's on your plate so that you can choose the most important things, because less is more. And I want to choose things that aren't just urgent, not just the dirty diaper, not just the barking dog, not just the irritated person, but I need to really have a good understanding of what's most important, what will make the most difference. The fourth distinction is I need to know the difference between process and outcome. This is in the area of goals. I think we do need to have some vision and some outcome and some future thinking. It's good leadership to know where we're headed. People want to know where we're going. But once you determine where we're going, we need to get back to the present and work on the process to get there, because it's the action that I take that makes the difference. It's not all this pie in the sky thinking and all this pie in the sky planning. It actually comes down to choosing the best actions every day. Let me say that again, choosing the best actions every day. I have to have clarity to do that. And finally, this one, if you're having time management issues, you really need to get this distinction clear about the difference between serving and pleasing. When you work in an area of pleasing, you're making yourself a victim to other people's responses, their happiness, their response, how they feel. Fact is, folks, I can't make somebody else happy. I can't please another person. I think that's working outside my circle of influence and in a circle of concern. But I can serve well. I can do the right thing. I can be kind. I can be helpful. I can be the person I need to be always. Whether that pleases other people or not is really none of my business. I know that's simple to say, but what it comes down to is clear communication. I need to learn how to communicate clear boundaries that may not please people, but it will serve them. You having some time to yourself uninterrupted will serve other people. It may not please them. Some of your people may want you available 24/7. That is not best for them. It's not best for you. So you have to get this distinction clearly. So I'm going to slow down. I love to slow things down because that's where you learn. That's where you really get it. And I want to look at these 5 distinctions one at a time. Let's look at owner victim again briefly. What would your organization be like if everybody in it took ownership? What would your life be like if you always took ownership? What do I mean by taking ownership? It's, again, being responsible, accountable. It's owning the situation. Think about our world today. How much blame is going on? How much abdication of things? How much shuffling things away and saying, I can't do anything about it? We're living in a victim entrenched world. It's becoming more and more the idea of entitlement. It's what the world deserves to give to me, instead of saying, what can I give to the world? I'm saying to this group that's on here today, and hopefully some of these folks are going to tune into this later, it's time to step up and own it. I'm calling out to leaders. I'm calling out to people that are going to step up and own their schedule and own their priorities and own their organization and own the leadership, instead of sitting back passively and becoming discouraged and becoming a victim. That's what I do as a coach, is I help people own things again, to step back into that driver's seat and start to take some charge and start to get things done. You can take responsibility. On these little slides, what you're going to see for each distinction, I'm going to give you the freeing statement that's true. If you will choose to be an owner and not a victim, you will be able to take your responsibility back. Overwhelm, I know this is hard to hear, but I've got a great group this morning. You can take it. Overwhelm is only a victim state of mind. That's all it is. It's time to drop that story of overwhelm. Your people who are overwhelmed, love them, care about them. Don't beat them up, but I want you to realize if they're overwhelmed, it's between their ears. It's not their circumstances that are overwhelming them. It's not their circumstances that are overwhelming them. They have a story, an interpretation of their circumstances that is overwhelming them. It's what they see in a snowstorm that makes them scared to death. It's not the snow. Snow is frozen water. It's what they see in a snake that scares them to death. The snake's just a little being that crawls on the earth. I'm saying it's how people think about their situation that creates overwhelm. What do we do as leaders? We help people change their story. We help people stand back, take some responsibility and some ownership, and look at things differently. Overwhelm is a victim state of mind. I'm a victim to my circumstances. How do you fix this? We're going to talk about how to fix it, but you got to face it first before you can fix it. You got to face it before you fix it. Overwhelm is just a state of mind. It's not a state of circumstances. Hope you can see that. Let's look at that second distinction, the important versus the urgent. I can choose my priorities. That's that empowering statement. I can choose important things. So to choose them, you have to find them first. You have to define them. And I love this Pareto principle. I would think most of you have heard of this before. It's called the 80-20 rule. It's a very simple rule. It was a financial person, economist that came up with this. There's a whole book on it. It's very interesting that there is a principle in the world that 80% of the results that you get come from 20% of your effort. What does that mean? That means in 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, one of those days is where you get most things done. Now, it may not be one day together, but out of those 40 hours, it's 8 hours. Out of the 40 hours in a week, 8 of those hours is getting 80% of the results. That's really true. If you're in business where you have customers, 20% of your customers bring 80% of your revenue. If you're in a nonprofit, 20% of your donors bring 80% of the dollars. If you're not sure about that, pull out the statistics, do the math, and look at that and see if that's not true. It really is true. So how does this apply to what we're talking about today? 20% of what you do gets 80% of your results. If you can find that 20% and define it and see it and focus on that, your results will soar. We're talking about time management. We're talking about getting more done with the same amount of time that I have. It's changing what I'm working on. I need to work on the 20% that gets to 80%. And less is more is the empowering statement there. that actually you're doing too much and you're too busy to be as successful as you want to be. It's very counterintuitive, but you're working on the 80% that gives you less than 20% of the results. And if you get this principle, it can be changing, life changing and business changing. Stephen Covey, again, I mentioned him earlier, talks about this 4-quadrant system. So I'll give you a very whirlwind review so that we can move on. But he basically makes this quadrant out of urgency and importance. So the upper left quadrant is urgent, important things. That's where most of us spend our lives, in crisis, pressing problems, deadline-driven things, things that have to be done. That's not wrong. That's life. But the fact is, where things really get done are important, non-urgent things like preparation, prevention, planning, relationship building, recreation, values clarification, the planning quadrant. That's where you're working on something that's not, nobody's yelling at you to get it done, but it's really the important stuff that moves things forward. In the Pareto principle, it's the 20% that gets the 80% done. Here's the fact. If you look at the bottom 2 non-important quadrants, 3 and 4, you've got trivia, busy work, needless interruptions. If we can start to stand up and be bold, as Steve Chandler says, time warriors, and start to say no to non-important things, some of which are not urgent, some of which are. But if we can start to identify what's not so important, what's more trivial, and stop that, then we can invest in the non-urgent important quadrant and reduce our overall stress and urgency. There's a whole lot there in that chart. I've got an article that I'll send you. I'm offering to send you that explains it, a couple pages long. If you're interested in more of that thought process, I can send you some information. It's the jar. I think we've all heard it. You got this jar and it's full of rocks and it's full of sand and water and gravel. So you pour that jar that's full of all those things out, full to the top. It's got water, it's got rocks, it's got gravel, it's got sand, and you've got to fill that jar back up. If you don't put those big rocks in that jar first, they won't fit, because they have to go in first and everything else has to work around those rocks for that jar to be properly filled to the brim and get the most stuff in it. If you look at that jar as representing the amount of time you have, how do we get the most out of a section of time? Well, we have to choose to put the big rocks in first. And the big rocks are those important, non-urgent things, the 20% that gets the 80% results. So I've just said a whole lot to you in the last 15 minutes or so, a lot of transformational things. I'm giving you an overview today, but that distinction between importance and urgency is so important. Let me give you a moment to kind of just process a little bit, and then we'll move on. Just let all this kind of sink in. Okay, I want to move on to process goals versus outcome goals. The distinction here is causes you to focus on action. Some people are so goal-minded and so future-minded they don't get anything done. Some people are so busy making lists and making new lists and making plans and making arrangements and even dreaming and daydreaming about the future that they don't get anything done in the present. And this distinction will take care of that inefficiency. The fact is, you set outcome goals and planning for one purpose: to choose today what you need to do. Does that make sense? Let me say it again. Outcome goals are for one purpose. They're to inspire you and to give you clarity about direction. It's kind of like on a vacation. I need to choose the destination, and then I need to start to drive day by day on a path that will get me there. And the driving day by day is what gets me there. It's not choosing the destination that gets me there. We can choose great goals and sit with our legs crossed and with a candle in front of us and dream about those goals, and absolutely nothing happens. Once you get clarity, you need to come back and get into action. You need to get into process. It's really all about habits, folks. It's really about little small habits every day that really gets us to the goal. And you can focus on action when you get this distinction. Here's a recipe for great results. This might be worth, again, the coming this morning. Clarity plus action gets results. I use that little snow globe up there to say what needs to happen. For most of you, you just need to slow down. You need to have some important me time, quiet time, uninterrupted time, important time, 80-20 time, 20%, where you sit and you allow things to get clear. Once you're clear about the outcome, about what's going on, then you take process action in the present, and that gets you results. It's choosing what's going to get the result. There are a lot of busy people not getting anywhere because they're not choosing wisely. They're not clear on what's most important. That's me. When I'm not getting the result I want and I'm working hard and taking a lot of action, I need to go back and say, I need to slow down and get some clarity. It's a recipe for a great result. Get clear and then get it done. Now, I'm not going to go in detail through this system, but it's based on David Allen's Getting Things Done book. It's about a 300-page book. It's an awesome system, but I am going to go through it really quickly here because I think this is the best system I found to get clarity. So let me just go through it, just offer it to you. Also, it's one of the handouts that I'm willing to send you here if you ask for it. You need to collect everything into one place. Frankly, people have the most messy, scattered offices and work environments where everything, you don't know where anything is. It's all around. In David Allen's system, you collect everything into one place. Everything physical, everything in your mind. You get it out of your mind onto paper and collect it all into an inbox. Then you got to classify it using this system. Anything you can throw away and declutter is going to help your life. So if you don't take anything away from this slide, realize this. Do I get rid of it or do I keep it? If you don't know where it's going to be and you're not going to use it, get rid of it, because clutter causes problems. So the first thing I do when I pick something up out of my inbox where I've collected everything, I decide, am I going to keep it or throw it away? If I decide to keep it, then if I can get it done in 2 minutes, I go ahead and take care of it. I don't want to handle things 3 or 4 times. If I can't do it and I'm not going to throw it away, then can I give it to someone else to do? And if I can't do that, then I'm going to have to defer it to a future time. This is when we start to get into some trouble. I have to have a good system to capture that at a future time so I don't have to keep it on my mind because I want a clear mind. So the fifth thing I can do with anything that comes out of the inbox is there's nothing to do with it right now, but I need to organize it and reference it somewhere. Once I have my list of things to do that I haven't already done, that I've delegated or deferred, then I need to get some clarity around the priority. And I need to organize task lists, file folders, and then I need to set up my daily plan. So if you kind of get this whole idea of this system, what it does is it takes you from collecting all the chaos into one place, classifying it, clarifying it, and planning it into a daily action list. And the whole system is about emptying and keeping that inbox caught up and clear. Works with email, it works with your life, it works with your delegation. It's an awesome system. And again, I just wanted you to get familiar with it. If that captures your attention, give me an email and we'll give you some more information on that. Buy the book, David Allen, Getting Things Done. Excellent system. Now, let's talk about one activity out of that system that if you'll follow me, you could use today. If you could take about an hour, you could do this and it would be, again, transformational. If you would sit down with a yellow pad and a pen and write everything that's currently on your mind and has your attention in bullet points, just one thought at a time, big and small, important and trivial. The most important thing is everything that's on your mind, you need to get it out of your head. That's an amazing thing I do with groups of folks. They sit for maybe 20 minutes and then 30 minutes and they just write everything until they can think of nothing else. They put everything on paper that's in their head. I've had people have as many as 240 some things. Usually it's about 60 or 70 items. Once people write down those things, they've about got it all out of their head. The second thing you do is you take each item, and this is really disciplined, but it's very interesting. I look at that item and I determine, what do I want to do with that? What outcome do I want? So this is the outcome goal versus the process. What do I want this? How do I want this to turn out? What do I need to do with this thing, or this issue, or this problem, or this situation, this thing that's on my mind? I need to get really clear on what my desired outcome is. In Covey world, it's beginning with the end in mind. What do I want this, how do I want this to end up? Third, for that item, then I need to figure out what is the next physical action I need to take. And I need to write that down. So now I've got a yellow sheet with 3 columns. I've got all these issues over here. I've got all the outcomes, if there is one, from each of those issues or things. And then I've got the next physical action I need to take to start to work towards that end. Think about that. I've changed this big box of muddle into clear set of steps, next steps. If I can look at all those next steps, guess what I can do? Now I can get clear on what are the most important next steps I need to take. That, my folks, is what the magic of all this is. What are the big rocks? What are the priorities? What are the most important things that are going to get me the most results? It's actions. What actions do I need to take? Now, I've just flooded you with a system to get really clear on what you need to do. Here's where you're going to hit the next wall. It's on this distinction, serving versus pleasing. You need to learn how to clearly communicate to those in your world about how things are going to work for you. And it's not that you're going to be arrogant and bossy. This is a way for us to serve, folks. This is a way for us to give more. This is a way for us to be a bigger blessing. When you're a train wreck and you're a mess, you're not helping that many people. This is a way for you to get it together and not be overwhelmed by everybody around you who pulls on you and tags on you and dumps on you. It got to stop the madness and clearly communicate some boundaries. And when you do that, you will be serving yourself, but more importantly, you'll be serving other people better. And what you will not be doing in some cases is pleasing others, because you're not giving your alcoholic uncle the martini he wants. You're not providing things for people that are not really going to help them or going to be harmful to them. You're not making your decisions based on the loudest crying baby or the thing that's calling to you the loudest or squeaking the loudest. You're truly choosing your priorities, which will not always please everybody, but it will serve those around you. When you get that clarity, you take the time to get clear, you can start to serve. That doesn't always please other people in the immediate. In fact, it can upset some people in the immediate because you're moving forward with things. And so how do you learn how to communicate like this? Well, you need to set limitations in order to serve others better. And I just want you to let that phrase sink in here. Where do I need to set some limitations so that I can serve other people better? We think, logically, to serve other people better, I need to remove limitations. Actually, there needs to be more limitations to increase your service. It's counterintuitive, but it's so true. Well, you have to remember that being kind is not always being nice, that nice people try to please other people and make them feel better, but that's not always the best way to get things done. That sometimes when you're kind, and I think you should always be kind, you're not going to be perceived as nice because you're going to be challenging the status quo and the comfort zone. I move on. You got to realize that effective leaders serve others and weak leaders try to please everyone. That one may sting a little bit, but take it in. This one you're going to get mad at me about, but that's because I'm serving you and not pleasing you. You need to limit your open door policy and schedule significant conversations. Saying yes to everyone all day long is unkind to them and to yourself. Yes is a bad word here. Going along all the time is not the kind thing and the leading thing to do and the best thing to do. You need to limit your open door policy. Did I say get rid of it? No. There can be times for the sand and the gravel to enter the jar, but the big rocks are the priorities, and that is behind closed doors. That is something that is priority that you choose. There are 2 or 3 things a day that you're absolutely going to get done, and it's not going to be interrupted, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. And folks, that's leadership. You're going to limit interruptions by scheduling your availability. So when people interrupt you, you're going to say, I really appreciate what you want to talk about. Let's schedule a time to sit down and talk about that, because I want to give you my full attention. Right now, I'm giving my full attention to something or something else. I'm going to give you the same attention, so let's schedule it. Obtain permission from others to use direct, kind, clear speech and then use it. In other words, we try to be so nice to people and we pad things up with so much social talk to make it acceptable that we're very inefficient in our communication. So it might sound this way. Marcy, I appreciate you. I would like to talk to you directly and clearly today. I'm going to do it in a kind way, but I want to talk really clearly and directly and efficiently. Does that work? I have yet, if you get permission from a person, for them to say no. But if you give them that warning, or you say, this is where we're going, you can be direct and more efficient in your speech. And I think this is personal mission, but I think every leader needs to work on coaching in a Socratic style. That's a questioning style of leadership and communication to increase accountability and resolve problems. People need to learn how to truly grant ownership to others through questions. And for more information on that, give me a call. Okay, so we've gone through those distinctions, and I want to finish up here today in the next 15 minutes by looking at some challenges. Technology challenge. If you notice the little picture, we've got the mobile phone, the smartphone in one hand, and we've got handcuffs in the other side. And here's the question: is the technology in your life now your master or your servant? In other words, do you tell it what to do, or is it telling you what to do? If your technology is bossing you around and you've got addiction issues, it's time to deal with them. And we all struggle with this. Our brains are designed to become addicted to our smartphones. In fact, the smartphone manufacturers know that. And that's a whole other subject. But what I'm saying is, in a very clear way, is I want to be a master and not a slave to my technology. And what does that look like? Well, for your email, just here's one thought: reduce the number of messages and the time you spend with each one of them. This can be a whole seminar we can talk about, but think about how many emails you're dealing with, how can you reduce the number, and how can you reduce the time with each one. Phone and web browsing, limit screen time. Get off the web, get away from the phone, more. Folks, we've lost interaction with other people because of this stuff. I'm not saying these tools are not good tools, but when they dominate you and they make you their slave, they're not good tools. They become slave masters. Communication response. When you're interacting with people, I'm talking about, on texting and emails. Create agreements with the key people and customers in your life and eliminate all this expectation. In other words, if you call me on the phone, I'm telling you this to you. If you call me on the phone within one business day, you will get a response from me. Maybe not till the next business day. So don't have an expectation to get it sooner than that. You might get it sooner than that, but I'm committing and I'm setting my own rules on how I respond. Some people expect immediate text response to every text. Well, their expectations are what rule until you reset them. And I'm saying in your organization and with your key people, get rid of all expectations and have some key agreements that you keep so you have integrity around this. Those little notifications on your devices, turn them off, and develop a habit of regular technology breaks and vacations from your phone. I'm finding that more and more people even have problems with their spine and their neck because it's always down. We truly have an addiction and a problem with this. And technology is beautiful and wonderful. I love it. I use it, but I don't want it to be my master. And only keep and manage what you absolutely need. We've got so much technology clutter and so much information in the world that we're drunk on information. We got way too much stuff. And the human being was never designed to be exposed to all this information. I just think that's a biologic fact. That with the stress in the world today and the anxiety, much of it is due because we have so much stuff coming at us. Well, are you going to be a victim to that, or are you going to be an owner? If you get that distinction, you're going to stand up and take care of that. So meet the technology challenge. I'm going to talk about another challenge and take a little bit of time on this, the meeting challenge. So if you are in an organization with meetings, here's some pointers and here's some thoughts and here's something to consider. Here's the challenge: to organize and conduct meetings that are productive, engaging, efficient, and get results. It is about the results, folks. I'm in the coaching business. It's about getting things done and getting projects done and getting good results. And we need to organize and conduct meetings that are productive, engaging, and efficient, moving toward those results. Not wasting time, not boring people out, and not, just wearing out our backside sitting in them. So how do you do that? Well, I like this. I like a pulse. Notice the little PowerPoint entertainment at the bottom, the little, heart beating down there, the little pulse. We need to be meeting regularly and agendized with our teams. This is what I'm proposing to you. Annually, once a year, as a team, talking about your leadership team, we need to be setting goals together, shared outcomes. We need to be meeting quarterly in my system to get the to-do items for that 90 days, because a human being has an attention span of about 90 days. Most of us can stick with 2 or 3 goals for 90 days and get rid of all the other stuff or put it on the back burner. Again, this is about less is more. This is about Pareto principle. This is about focus. So everybody needs to have 2 or 3 quarterly milestones that are non-negotiable actions that they're going to get accomplished that's going to move towards those annual goals. And we meet with our key people quarterly to set those and to commit to those. Third, weekly meetings. We need to be dealing with our problems and keep them current and keep them solved and be accountable for the actions that we're going to take to solve them. That needs to be happening in the system that I propose in a 90-minute weekly meeting. And you're saying a 90-minute meeting with weekly, we are already meeting too much. This meeting will get rid of most of your other meetings. This particular meeting with a great agenda will reduce those other meetings and eliminate them. If we're getting with our key people every week and solving problems, with our key people every quarter and working on the most important priorities and setting those, and once a year we're getting our vision clear, you tell me that won't be better? I think so. And then a daily huddle. That's on your feet, 5-10 minutes in the morning. What we got today, what do we get done from yesterday, how's today? And so if you put that pulse in place, meetings start to become exciting and useful and not boring. Here's some best practices. Just some common sense stuff to help you all out, maybe reminders for most of you. Have clear written objectives and agendas. If you want to have a free-for-all creative meeting, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad meeting, but that shouldn't be most meetings. People are afraid to be structured. You need a good, strong leader in a meeting that has a clear written objective for that meeting. What are we going to get done today? and an agenda to get there. And I like the same agenda, the same pattern. Second, only have the appropriate people in the meeting. If you do nothing else out of today, go back through your meetings that you have every week. Think about who's at those meetings. Do all those people need to be there? The less people at the meeting, the better. Now, we need the appropriate people there, but we don't need extra. And we don't need to be dragging people in the meetings that they don't need to be at. Third, if you got information for the meeting that people need to review, let's get an agreement to review that and do that prior to the meeting. Let's not waste company time and organization time with everybody sitting in a room reviewing stuff. That should have already happened. That needs to be sent prior. Begin and end on time. Do you want me to ride that hobby horse, or do I need to say any more about that? I'm still amazed at how people waste 10 to 15 minutes in the first part of a meeting waiting for people to get there, and then lollygag and go beyond the ending point. It's not necessary. It's just a lack of leadership and discipline. That's all it is. And I'm not ragging you out. I'm just giving you some ideas on how to clean things up and make them much better and more efficient. And we don't have to come in like an ogre and make this stuff happen. We can be kind, but we're going to come in and set some restrictions. We're going to start on time, and we're going to end on time, and we're going to have the appropriate people there, and they're going to come prepared with the information, and we're going to follow the agenda. That's what I'm saying. Those are best practices. Use newsletters, memos, emails to distribute information that people need, not the meeting. Don't waste meeting time on just sharing information. Require 100% presence and participation. What that means is people aren't going to text in the meeting. They're not going to be multitasking. They're not going to be taking calls. They're going to put all that stuff aside. And in that meeting, that's 100% where they're going to be and what they're going to focus on. And end the meeting and have the practice of the meeting of establishing clear agreements, accountabilities, specific next action steps, and scheduled follow-ups. All very key pieces that I'm just throwing out to you today. I'm just going very quickly today with these. So, got about 5 minutes left here. I don't know if you're taking notes, if you're just listening, what you're doing, but I'm going to give you here just a minute or two to just try to jot down a few ideas, and more importantly, what you're going to do, maybe one great action you're going to take from today's meeting. Because I think these meetings that we're doing online like this, I love to do these, that if people will turn them into action and do something in response, that's the best result. So I want to give you some time just to look back through your notes, look back, think back through what we've been talking about, and jot down a few great ideas. You might want to take a few minutes after we end here in a minute and do the same thing. Just what are some ideas and thoughts I had from today? What are some little nuggets that I got from today? And what am I going to do about it? The most important question, what am I going to do about it? What have you learned and what are your next steps? That's what we're asking. Here's what I want to offer you, 3 offers. First, if you want today's slides as a reminder, just email me and I'll send those to you free, a PDF of those free. Second, I've got some related articles, 4 great articles from our library here, from things that I've written and worked on and collected over the years. Send those to you free of charge. And specifically that simple personal organizational system, I've got a 1-page summary of that David Allen system, if that was of interest to you. So if you want those resources, just email me. I will email them out to you. And third, I'm doing a special offer today on the consultation with me. I usually charge $100 or something just to make it worthwhile for really the other person to see some worth in it. But with this group today, I decided to do another free offer. If you want an hour with me on Zoom to talk about any of these matters, I would love to do that with you. My heart and my passion is to help people get better and to help them improve organizations and make a difference in the communities and the people that they're serving. So this is my email address, davebeam@mentordavebeam.com. That's the best way to get in touch with me. Just email me and say, Dave, I'd like to talk to you for an hour. You offered to do that. When can we set that up? And I'll send you a Zoom invite, and we'll do it in this format. Or if you just want the articles, or you just want the slides, or you want all of it, just let me know, and I'd love to do that. So thank you for being here today, and we'll see you hopefully next month. And this presentation, if you want some other people to see it, it'll be posted online later today. You can just go to my website to get access to that, or the address at YouTube for this. We put all these presentations up on YouTube for free for people as well. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.